My name is Petrie, and I'm a folk singer and songwriter. Well, I've always been very butch and masculine presenting ever since I was really small. And recently, in the past sort of 5-10 years, I've become, I think as I've gotten more immersed in feminist politics and more immersed in gender politics, I've become really aware that the sorts of women that you get sort of shown images of when you're small, or when you're any age really, are almost exclusively feminine ones. And the idea of a masculine presented woman is never particularly celebrated in the media or in culture at all, really. I mean, the only kind of masculine women that you ever see generally are kind of played for laughs, and the laugh is generally around the idea of them being hideously unattractive. And I don't know, I just think that butch women and masculine women get sold a rough deal on that sort of thing, and I think we could do with a few more images of I don't know how to say attractive butch women without making it sound like I think I'm very attractive. I just think that we need more variety in the images of women that we get shown and that we are consciously showing to people. And I think that there's a lot of variation, and there's a lot of room for variation in the presentation of women, and there's not just one way to be a woman. And I think that it's quite important to me to show the world that you can wear suits and be a woman, and that women do, and that's cool. Okay, so this weekend there was quite a long read article in the Times by Janice Turner, which was the subject of quite a lot of controversy, because it was sort of using some quite reasonable concerns about the treatment of masculine women and sort of specifically butch lesbians, and sort of in schools and in how the images of butch women that young people get shown. And claiming that this is sort of falsely initiating a rise in young women who transition to become trans men. And whilst that article was very misguided and I believe had quite a transphobic agenda, and I wrote quite a lot on social media about how I think that is true, I think that it's also, we really, there's a danger of setting up a false kind of rivalry, if you like, between the masculine side of women and trans people and trans rights, because these are not things, we're not in competition with each other. These are struggles that we should definitely be fighting together, because actually we all have one common enemy, which is basically a patriarchal society, which dictates the kinds of images of women that people get shown. And it's no coincidence, I don't think, that straight men write films where lesbians are all horrible and predatory and ugly, and because actually in reality, if you kind of see any genuinely lesbian art that's kind of done by lesbians for lesbians, then a lot of what that is about is celebrating masculine women and celebrating butch women. So I kind of was thinking about all these things and thinking about how it is true that we don't show particularly young people any sort of other ways to be a woman other than to be feminine. And I think that's quite an important thing that we should tackle. So I think that, showing young people masculine women and showing them that is totally a choice, and that's totally a choice for just being that kind of woman is totally legitimate and should be celebrated. But it also definitely doesn't mean that we are in any kind of competition with trans folks or trans rights, because that's definitely, a struggle that we should be fighting together side by side. Yeah, definitely, yeah. And, even having had, I personally come from a very, very supportive background, and I have an amazing family. But when I was kind of trying to be a singer when I was a teenager, some of the things that people said to me, my first girlfriend's dad once said to me, I really think you can make it in music. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you look like. And he thought he was giving me a compliment, you know what I mean? But I didn't think there was anything wrong with the way that I looked. There's nothing about me that made me think, wow, if I didn't look like this, I could be a singer. So I think now I don't know, I'm at this point in my life now where I turned 30 this year, like I'm a little bit more confident about these things, and I feel really strongly that, like, yeah, sure, I'm going to be as butch as I can possibly be. Like, you know, like we should have more butch women, we should have more butch women actors, we should have more butch women singers, and I want to be a part of the revolution.